Coming up in this week's show, our special guest is Kristin Hadeed, and she joins us to share her experience and advice for leading millennials. Then later on in the show, I'm joined by Ben Coomber, the host of the UK's #1 rated health and fitness podcast on iTunes called Ben Coomber Radio. He is our special guest for this week's Pre-Call Quickfire 5. All of that and more coming your way right now. Welcome, you're listening to episode 175 of the Fitness Business Podcast. We'd like to thank this month's premier podcast partner, MyZone, the wearable technology that enhances paid programming and drives customer engagement. Hi everyone, I'm your host Chantal Broderick and I'm so happy you're joining me for this week's show. Our special guest, as I mentioned, is Kristin Hadeed, the founder of Student Maid, which is a cleaning enterprise that primarily hires students. Now I know what you're thinking. What does cleaning have to do with running a fitness business? Well, Student Maid is known for its people-centric culture, and based on her experience working with millennials, growing and leading a team, and all of the ups and downs along the way, Kristin has authored a book called Permission to Screw Up. There are stories that she shares in the book that I really felt would resonate with many of you who are on your own leadership journey, or for any of you that are managing millennials. I'm going to give you a little bit more background when we actually start the interview, but here's a really quick overview of what we're going to chat about. Kristin shares what she loves about working with millennials and Gen Z as well, and some of the challenges that she's faced along her journey to becoming a leader. She also shares a really great feedback technique called FBI that we can all use with our own teams. My favorite part of the chat is actually this week's Fit Bizpiration, when Kristin shares 3 tips on how we can develop our employees to be amazing team members. So make sure you listen out for that one. We're about to transition into this week's show, but first I want to thank this month's podcast partner. MyZone is a wearable technology platform that leverages personal goal setting, gamification, and social platforms to motivate your members. To find out more, go to myzone.org, or you can check out the video on our new partners page at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Kristin, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my goodness. I actually can't tell you just how excited I have been about having you come on as a guest, because to give everyone a little bit of background, I interviewed the amazing Peter Docker on the show back in February of this year. And Peter, of course, is the co-author of Find Your Why. And he was just such a beautiful, inspiring person. And when I asked him the question in the Pre-Call Quickfire 5, what book would you recommend and why? He said to me, well, I would recommend Permission to Screw Up by Kristin Hadeed. And I just took that and ran with it and read it just so quickly. I love your book. So congratulations on writing such a fantastic book, Kristin.
Thank you.
I absolutely love it. And I think, the reason that it resonated with me so much is because I think there are so many parallels between what you have done to build Student Maid and the experiences that you have with, I think it resonates so closely with the fitness industry and with what so many of our owners and managers go through. I think they're quite similar experiences, and that's why I wanted to get you on the show, because I love the stories that you tell in the book, and I think that there's a lot that we can learn from your experience. So I'm hoping that you can start off by sharing with us the 3 things that you have loved the most about working with millennials.
Yeah. So I think, just to back up a bit, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I wasn't someone who came out of the womb saying, I can't wait to be a CEO. I started my business unintentionally while I was in college, and I actually was working in finance, and I thought I would move to Wall Street to be an investment banker. Long story short, I began cleaning houses as a way to make extra money in school, and I landed this contract And it was a huge contract to clean empty college apartments. We had about 800 apartments to clean in 21 days or something crazy like that. I hired 60 people. These were all students, so around the same age as me, my peers. And it was a huge failure. A couple days into the contract, 45 of the 60 quit at the same time. And that was my first real leadership lesson. And, that was kind of the first moment where, number one, I became obsessed with learning how to be a better leader and learning how to build a company where people wanted to be. But I think I realized what the challenge of leadership is. The challenge of leadership is you have to figure out how to get people inspired to do the work they're doing. You have to help them feel connected to that work. You have to take this team of people, all of which have been raised differently, have different backgrounds, experiences, and you have to figure out, how do I help them be at their best? How do I help them work in sync? And so I think no matter what generation you're talking about, that's a hard job. And I never really went into this business thinking, how am I going to make this work with millennials? It was more, how am I going to make this work with people? Because the work I was asking them to do, so awful, cleaning dirty toilets, scrubbing tile grout on your hands and knees with a toothbrush. We're not talking about fun and glamorous work. So my challenge was, how do I get people excited about this kind of work? How do I make them feel like there's a bigger purpose here? How do I make them feel so valued? How do I earn, loyalty, trust, all these things? So I never went into my business thinking, oh, I have to figure out millennials out. It was just, I have to figure people out. Mm. So in answer to your question of what are the three things that I love most about working with this generation, it's hard for me because I don't think about it as this generation. I think everyone is so amazingly capable. But the challenge of the leader is, how do you tap into that? How do you create an environment where that person feels empowered to be able to contribute in the areas where they're strong? And that's what leadership is about. So just like any human being, I think what I love most is people generally show up and they want to do their best. But you have to create the environment for them to be at their best. And that's what I learned early on at Student Maid, especially when those 45 people quit. I got them back. We probably don't have time for that story, but yeah, it's all about, creating the environment that allows people to really be at their best.
Okay, so Kristin, you kind of touched on a little bit of background, which is fantastic, because for anyone that hasn't read the book, one of the things that I loved so much was just your raw honesty about your experiences with hiring and learning along the way, and all the leadership lessons that you learned. So my next question, I guess, is the flip of the first one. And what I'm interested to know is, what challenges did you find either working with millennials or, as you put it, just becoming a leader in general? And I guess maybe you can give us some examples of what you did to address those challenges.
Sure. Oh, where do I begin with the challenges? So I do think that millennials, and we also employ high school students in my company. So we're actually employing Generation Z, the generation that comes after millennials. And I do think one challenge is that this generation and Gen Z, we have grown up with technology. We grew up with cell phones. We grew up building our relationships from behind a screen. When we look at Gen Z, even younger, they received a cell phone even younger. And that absolutely impacts the way that we build relationships, the way that we connect. It impacts our confidence when we walk into a room, being able to introduce ourselves. And beyond that, though, I think it also affects independent thinking. So when we have a question, our first reaction may be to just Google it. Or if we need directions somewhere, we type in the address and there we go. We have step-by-step instructions on how to get there. Even dating, we rely on apps to connect us, and we don't need that confidence anymore to just walk up to a stranger and say, hey, introduce ourselves and ask them for their name. It's all done kind of for us. So the challenges I saw in my business and I still see are those two things. It's the relationship skills maybe are not there, and also the lack of independent thinking and confidence in decision making, because you're relying on an app. And I remember when those 45 people quit, I actually Googled, what do you do when 45 people quit? There's no answer in Google for that. So we work really hard at Student Maid on really empowering people, giving them room to fail, to teach them that they are capable. So what I mean by that is when people are cleaning together, we always send them in teams of 2. We don't tell people exactly how to clean. We teach them how to use the chemicals. We teach them the best methods of cleaning glass and vacuuming. And, we definitely train them, but we don't say, you're going to clean this, and then you're going to clean this, and you are going to clean this. We really leave it up to them to decide what's the best way to clean this client's house or office, knowing all that we know. And we know that by giving them that complete freedom, people are going to mess up, but we also know that that's how you learn most. Like I learned so much when 45 people quit on me. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that's one way that we really, we try to teach independent thinking, and we trust them even if they mess up. As long as they made decisions with our values in mind, we stand by them and we support them. The other piece is relationship skills. We actually don't text. Everything we do at Student Maid is face-to-face or on the phone, because we found that if it's anything important and significant, that's how it has to be communicated to really build trust and build a relationship. So we've been able to teach our people how to really interact on a real human level.
Kristen, there's a couple of things that I want to just pick up on in that answer. The first one was when you talked about independent thinking, because I think that we as business owners quite often go down the path of feeling like we need to be extremely structured when we've got new team coming on or when we're working with new employees. But I think that was a really interesting observation, and something that you've applied in your business is saying, okay, yes, I'm going to give you foundation training, but I'm also going to give you some autonomy in your role. So I mention that because I think it's a good opportunity for all of our owners and managers out there to have a think about how they're actually onboarding their new staff and how much structure they're applying versus how much autonomy they're giving. And obviously that's been something that you've worked on and gotten to where it is today. So I thought that was really important. The second point, that's what I was going to say. The second point, you just mentioned about not texting, but actually meeting one-on-one. And one of the things that I recall from your book was, I think you called them like lunchtime learning, learn and lunch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lunch and learn. Yeah.
You want to tell everyone about that concept? And I would love to know, do you still do that? Has that evolved? Or can you just briefly touch on that for us?
This is my favorite topic in the world. Yeah. So it started with my leadership team, which is, the executive team of my company. And one day I just gathered everyone together. We all brought our lunch, and I just taught something I learned at a conference. And it was so great to be in the same room together. We never really sit down and talk and have lunch together, but then to also be learning and growing together. And they wanted more of that. So we actually, this started a few years ago. We decided that once a month we would do that. And we still do it to this day. We call them our workshops now, but our whole executive team gets together. Now we block out 2 to 3 days a month, and they're consecutive days. It's when we work on the business instead of in it. So we work on, what are our goals? How far away are we from them? What obstacles are getting in the way? How can we get through those obstacles? But we also focus on strengthening our relationship as a team. We focus on learning and developing as a team. And then we have a similar thing for our students. We call it Development Day, and we do that once a quarter. So we bring the whole company together one day every quarter, and we use it as relationship building time. We talk about big company updates, and we allow time for those relationships to really be built, because it's just, we don't have the time. Everyone is so busy. And what I've learned is we have to make the time.
Kristen, one of the areas that I'm really keen to dive into is understanding how we can best give feedback to our teams. Now, I know you do touch on this during the book. So is there a technique that you have found works best?
Yes. So for a very long time, we struggled as a company with feedback. I struggled as a leader giving feedback. People were afraid to speak up when they were upset about something. And for a long time, the only solution I had was anonymous surveys and, sugarcoating all feedback so that it didn't hurt anyone's feelings. And it's not a way to promote trust. So we use a method now called the FBI. And this is a technique we learned from Barry Waymeller, a wonderful company that we absolutely love based out of St. Louis. And the FBI is a way that you can inspire someone to either change their behavior or repeat behavior that you want to see repeated again. So it's actually a way to give meaningful recognition and critical feedback that actually is productive and inspires behavior change. And each letter stands for something. So the F is feeling, how you felt. The B is behavior, about the specific behavior. So how you felt about this person's specific behavior. What was that behavior? And the I is impact. What was the impact of that behavior? Whether on you, the client, the team, the bottom line. So feeling, behavior, impact. And I'll give you an example. Let's say someone's late. You could say, I felt disappointed this morning when you were 30 minutes late to the meeting. And the impact is now I'm unsure if I can rely on you. And I'm sure you didn't intend to have that impact, but I really don't want to feel this way. So can you help me figure out how this happened or something like that? And the idea is the person did not wake up that day saying, I can't wait to be 30 minutes late and make this person feel disappointed and like they can't rely on me. We just don't know our actions have that impact. And when we're made aware, we're usually inspired to change it. And then also recognition. So I felt proud when you spoke up at the meeting this morning, and the impact was after you spoke up and shared your opinion, everyone else felt more comfortable sharing theirs. Thank you. And now that person is more inspired to speak up next time they have an opinion. So it's a way to really give recognition that's meaningful and not just generic praise that doesn't mean anything. And it's a way to really confront behavior that needs to be changed in a way that's productive and doesn't cause the person on the other end to be defensive.
Okay, team, I'm going to jump in here. I thought that you might like to know some more about the FBI feedback that Kristen just shared. So with her permission, I have included an extract from chapter 3 of her book where she goes into detail about it. You'll find that extract in today's show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Now, back to the show. So, Kristen, we like to finish each of our shows with what we call Fit Inspiration. And I'm hoping you can share with us 3 ways that we can develop, I'm going to say, Millennials and Gen Z. What age group is do you say Gen Z? Don't you?
It's Gen Z.
So I don't Gen Z. What age group is Gen Z?
I don't. They say that the millennial generation kind of ends around 2002. So I believe it's anyone who's just born after 2002.
Anyone after 2002. Okay, so let's kind of bundle in those generations because that's who you work with. It's it's who many of us work with. So what are 3 ways that you would recommend that we can actually develop them to be fantastic team members?
I love this question. I think that the first thing is we have to teach. We can't assume that anyone knows, and we can't blame anyone for not knowing. So the examples I gave earlier, not having great relationship skills, and certainly I don't mean to paint everyone with the same brush, but some certainly are great at relationships. But for those who aren't, we need to have some empathy, okay? We grew up with cell phones. Maybe we don't know how. Maybe we don't know how to communicate. So it's our job to teach. Let's teach people how to communicate. Let's teach them to be independent thinkers. Let's teach them how to give feedback. So number 1 is teach. And I think that applies to anyone. What job are you asking people to do? And what do you need to teach them to be able to be really good at their job? The second is form a real relationship with them. Get to know who they are. Get to know their background, where they come from, what their goals are, what their hopes are, what their fears are. Be vulnerable yourself. Share your own fears, dreams, goals, where you came from, because vulnerability and relationships, that stuff builds trust, which later can lead to loyalty. I was reading a report from Gallup, and there was an alarming statistic. It said only 4 in 10 people believe that their leader truly cares about them. If the number was 8 in 10, we would see a 41% reduction in absenteeism, which is huge. It just shows that when someone cares about you, you want to be there. So teach, build a real relationship. And the third is, I would say, invest in their dreams. Figure out what is it that they want to achieve. What goals? How can you help them? How can you give your time to helping them achieve those things? Whether it's just sitting down with them and helping them make a plan, whether it's introducing them to someone in the community who can help them with X, Y, or Z. Because when you do that, the message you send is that you're a priority to me. It's not just the business goals. It's not just the business dreams. It's you too. And I think it makes people want to give you their best.
Kristen, as you were talking through that, and when you just said that statistic as well, it actually reminded me of a fantastic book. And we had the author on the show a couple of years ago now, I think it was, Susan Fowler. I don't know if you know this book, but she wrote a book called Why Motivating People Doesn't Work and What Does. And in that book, and she's done a lot of research over the years, and she talks about 3 crucial questions that all leaders should ask. And I was just thinking, if anyone hasn't read that book, that is another fantastic book on leadership that you guys should absolutely check out. Also check out the interview that we did. I'll put a link in today's show notes, because I always reference this in when I speak to the industry, and there's just 3 questions that we can ask every single day that make a huge impact on the way that our teams feel, the way that we interact with them as leaders, and the way that they learn. So I'm going to put that information in the show notes. And Kristen, as you were answering that, I couldn't help myself. I had to Google and find out the birth dates for Gen Z.
Yes.
Gen Z. Okay, so everyone that's interested, so Gen Z birth dates start from 1995 and end 2012. Now, here's a little test. Do you know that there's a generation after that? And do you know what they're called?
I don't.
Aha.
What are they called?
Either did I until now. Okay, so we've got the Millennials, then we've got Gen Z, and then we've got Gen Alpha.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a new one.
So Alpha.
Gen Alpha.
Yeah,
Oh.
Alpha is 2013 to 2025. There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah, it's so funny. If you Google all this stuff, you'll see no one can decide on the exact birth dates. No one can decide. It's such a mess. But, you have like the people who are probably born 1995 to 2002 are a mix of, they're on the cusp, right? They're like probably Gen Z, millennial mix.
Yeah.
But Gen Alpha, interesting. Good to know.
There you go. Well, Chris, as I said at the very beginning, since I read your book, or I listened to your book, and of course you did the voiceovers for that, which was amazing. You have such a beautiful, warm personality. I love the lessons that you share on leadership, and I love your honesty in the experiences that you've had throughout your career to date. I want to encourage everyone, A, of course, to read the book, Permission to Screw Up, B, to check out all of the work that you've done online, because you've got some fantastic videos and interviews and stuff like that online. I'm going to connect up some of those to our show notes. And look, I really hope that we have the opportunity to meet one day. I hope that you can do some work maybe with the fitness industry at some stage, because as I said, I think the lessons are just so relevant. So thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Oh, thank you. I can't believe it's already over. But thank you so much. And just, my final message to everyone is, I know it's so hard. Leadership is such a hard job. It's also the most rewarding job. So keep doing what you're doing. Whoever said, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. Why is that the phrase? Because that is not true. If you love what you do, you work really, really hard on that thing because you love it. So keep working hard. It matters. And even when you mess up, just remember that something good will come out of it, just like it did when those 45 people quit.
That's a great message to finish on. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Team Rockstar Fit is an award-winning mastermind team that helps fit pros lead happy and balanced lives. Get mentoring and support. Learn how to grow your business online with Beachbody. You can apply for a free consultation today at teamrockstarfit.com.
Pre-Core Quickfire 5.
Ben Coomber is the host of the UK's #1 rated health and fitness podcast on iTunes called Ben Coomber Radio, and he's our special guest for this week's Pre-Core Quickfire 5. Hey, Ben, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
We're going to kick things off today with your Pre-Core Quickfire 5 questions. So do you want to tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
I do what I do because I used to be obese. I got slim, then I got athletic, then I got into business and the internet. I've suffered through health problems. So I know where people are at and I've been through their pain.
And what's one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
I turn off my phone and that gives me the freedom to think and create.
I love that one. And what's an app or a system that you use to stay in control of your workload?
I'm pretty old school. I just use a handwritten diary and a whiteboard and a planner, and I just go with the feel.
And what's one book, podcast, or blog that you'd recommend, and why?
It would probably be Extreme Ownership by Jacko Willink and Leif Babin. Amazing book. If you can get that mindset instilled in every part of your body, life-changing.
That is a seriously amazing book. Let me tell you, have you interviewed Jocko before?
I haven't, no.
Oh, I am trying to get him on the show. He's an author that I would absolutely love to get on the show. Now, tell everyone, what's the topic that we're going to be focusing on during your main interview next week?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about how to be an awesome personal trainer, the ethos, the coaching behavior, the environment that you create to be successful as a coach.
Excellent. Well, Ben, I want to thank you so much for joining us for our Precourt Quickfire 5.
Thank you.
Before we finish off today, a reminder that all the resources, the links, and of course a transcript can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you to our foundation partner, Active Management. They have an amazing gift for you. Their number one selling checklist is yours completely free. It will turn your About Us page on your website into a lead generating page. All you need to do is go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for your free download. Thank you so much for joining me for another week of the show. I look forward to seeing you next week. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into lives of others.